Welcome to In the Green Room.
Woo.
I'm Kinga.
And I'm Chet.
And this is Owen.
And Richard here.
And we've got the famous
Sam the man, the
Pillsbury.
myth.
Mr. Pillsbury.
Our favorite
Man, the
Arizona winemaker.
Oh yeah, the legend himself in the studio.
Say hello.
Hi. Go ahead, honey.
And we're talking about love and wine, and all kinds of love.
All kinds of love.
Richard, we need you a little.
All kinds of love.
Thank you. You just won't sound as crisp. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to pour myself first, and I'll pass it around.
Well,
So
I
what
like
are
to
we
sound
drinking
crisp.
on today?
This
Tell
is
us
a
little
crisp
bit.
wine. Speaking of crisp.
Very crisp.
Well, I was asked to come and talk about a wine for Valentine's Day, and what could be better than something pink and delicious, you know?
Yes.
So,
And that's why we're talking about love and wine
Yes,
and the love of wine,
We will.
because everybody loves wine, and what a great gift to bring your Valentine.
Yeah,
What do you think, Owen? Are you going to bring your Valentine some wine?
possibly. It's actually a really great gift. It's like a good bonding experience. Just sit down, have a glass of wine together.
You have a Valentine?
No.
Oh.
Oh, good. Let's put him on the spot.
one can only dream.
He doesn't have one. He has
Maybe
many.
one day. No, yeah. Yeah. I'm not really looking right now, so I've just been working. Pretty grinding.
He's working on self-love.
Yeah.
The best
Well,
way to
that's a good
find
place to start.
It is a great way to start.
the best way to find true love is to not need it.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
right.
Oh,
No.
that's a good. Oh,
Don't
that's.
look for it. Don't hope for it. It'll come to you much
Yeah.
better shape
Yeah.
if you don't need it.
I like that.
Oh, I love that.
100%. If you're focused on your own passions and hobbies, they'll end up leading to somebody that's more compatible versus if you're just looking for somebody to fill that void.
There's a famous book by Dr. Erich Fromm, a psychiatrist from Germany, called The Art of Love. It was written back in the 50s. And one of the greatest things that you learn from that, one of the greatest lines, is the difference between loving someone because you need them and needing someone because you love them.
Ooh, I love that.
That's
Okay,
really
wait.
good
Say it
too.
one more time.
The difference between needing someone because you love them or loving someone, wait a minute, what did I just say? Loving someone because you need them or needing someone because you love them.
Oh, I love that. Wow. And so, is it how, Sam? Is that your little Valentine? Is that how you are?
Well, I mean, maybe I'm lucky, but I've been married twice, once for 25 years and once for 30, and in both cases, I definitely didn't need anybody. And in actual fact, what was really interesting was in both cases, I saw this person 30 or 40 feet away in another room, and almost instantly, for the first time, I knew I wanted to be with them.
Wife one or wife two?
Both.
Interesting.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, and you know, in my,
Interesting.
in
What
my
if they had
first-
both been in the same room at the same time? You would have
there were two
been
and a
switching to Mormonism.
There were two. Oh, I'm going to try that.
Or a little bit.
There was 2.5 decades between them, and it just they were really literally the only two women I've ever seen that happened with. No more for me, thanks. And it was real. I mean, I really felt it really powerfully. And in the first case, I was 19, and I thought, I can't get involved with this person. I'm too young to be in a permanent relationship, you know. And she was 17, and so I literally.
Oh, you were 19. She was 17.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was literally, I spent 6 months thinking about this woman, but not doing anything about it. And finally I gave up, you know, and I called her up and said, would you like to go out? And she'd had the same feeling. And we were madly in love for a long time. We just changed, you know, and 20, you know. And
Wait, this is the wife.
my
wife
first
number
marriage.
one.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I think people always talk about a failed marriage. Well, 25 years of a loving relationship with somebody I don't consider to be a
No,
failure.
not
It's
at
just
all.
we became different people.
Exactly.
And-
That's such an optimistic way to look at it. I think that's how people should look at past relationships. Think about all the highs and good times you had, not all the low points.
Absolutely.
I love this woman crazy, you know, and it just very gradually changed over a long period of time. And finally, it's just like, this is not the same person I fell in love with, and 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 then it can become bitter. In a funny way, the worse the breakup is possibly a signal of how intense the relationship was in the first place too. So I don't know how you think, but I think that's possible. I always like to think, maybe why couldn't it have happened and finished nicely? But it's what happened. I have no control over it, And then the same.
Are you friends to this day?
No.
Oh, you're
Yeah,
not.
no,
Okay.
it's pretty nasty.
Oh, where does she live?
In New Zealand.
Oh, so when you go back to New Zealand, you don't see her?
No.
Not friends.
No.
You just said just asked him the same question like 5 times.
Well, she's very angry with me, which I also think means that there's unresolved stuff going on there.
Sure.
But and then the same thing happened when in the second marriage I was working on a film and I was the director and that's why I came to Arizona, because I was sent to Phoenix to shoot this project for it was a TV pilot for Universal. And on the second day I was in the production offices, I saw the same thing through a doorway into another room, and I saw this woman talking to a whole bunch of people, and she looked really young. And I thought, oh, she could be good for this could be a good person for me to introduce to my eldest son. And
Wait, how many kids do you have?
3. I have 3 sons now. We had 2 in my first marriage, and my son in my second marriage is 17. And anyway, so I thought, so we bumped into each other in the doorway actually on that same day, and I said, "You're awfully young to be a location manager on a project like this, aren't you?" And she said, "How old do you think I'm?" And I said, "Oh, 20." She said, "I'm 20 now." I thought, the hell with my son, I'll have it myself. And we're great. We're 30 years plus in, and we're just good mates, and we work together every day, and we live with her 91-year-old mom and our 17-year-old son, and it's pretty good. She helps run the business, She's kind of a CFO of Pillsbury Wine Company.
And she makes you laugh.
Sometimes, for sure, but I mostly.
Sometimes.
Well, I mean, it's pretty serious, and just have immense respect and admiration for her, and it seems
There you
mutual.
go.
And
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I think this one's for.
So what'd you do on your first date with her?
I took her to that Italian restaurant on the corner of 32nd Street and Shea that's just closed. It was open for 27 years or something. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, I know which one.
It's where Mark Tarbell's place is, okay? And it's
Mark Tarbell.
Tarbell's.
Oh, 32nd Street in Camelback?
Camelback.
And Camelback. That's
Okay.
right.
Oh, okay.
No,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Right,
I'm
yeah.
getting old,
32nd
Oh
Street in
yeah,
Camelback.
that famous.
Hey,
You can answer it real quick.
I'll have to call you back maybe. I'm in a thing. Thank you.
Thing, yeah.
It's real.
The
This is
place,
So-
I've been there a million times. Yeah, that place. That's a nice place. That was very popular.
So we're having dinner there, and there was other people in this room, and I noticed they were looking at us like this, and so we must have been giving some kind of energy out, and so someone else was picking up.
So how long until you asked her to marry you?
Oh, a few years, because for me, and to a certain extent for her, the marriage wasn't important. It was the relationship. For me, there were formal reasons for us to get married. One of them was my amazing Directors Guild of America health insurance, which she would be part of as soon as we got married. And the other one was her father was on his deathbed, so we went and had this little ceremony in front of him with her mom, her dad, their 2 dogs, and a Taiwanese maid who was helping her dad with his medications and things like that. And we were very proud because it cost $26, which was how much the flowers cost. So we thought it was pretty cool.
I love it. So we are talking to Sam Pillsbury, Arizona winemaker, famous film producer, director, and how many movies? 35?
32. Some of them are TV series, some of them are cable movies, some of them are feature films, and then a whole bunch of documentaries that are part. If you go to imdb.com, there's this big list, which is most of my projects, but not all of them.
So you're so passionate about your wine, and you spend so much time on it. How did you manage that, and also staying dedicated in a relationship? Because
Great question.
well, yeah, because I'm super dedicated time-wise with my music and spending time in the studio working on new songs. And then as I get more bookings, then I'm spending more time traveling and doing that kind of stuff. So I don't know, I've just thought about like how difficult it's going to be to have the time commitment doing music and a relationship. But you've clearly thrived with doing wine in a relationship.
That's a great question.
Well, the thing is interesting is that we started working and not being with each other a lot because we would work on different movies, and that would, I mean, I was almost a year in Vancouver doing Free Willy 3, for example, and Melanie came up and worked on it for a while, but I think the thing is if you
So it sounds like being two independent people helps it a lot then.
it's essential.
Definitely.
It's
Yeah,
essential. And
definitely.
I mean, she's dedicated to the things that she loves and does, and we don't mind being away from each other, and we can communicate with each other on the phone, and then when you get together, it's even better.
So she's obviously not jealous, and you're obviously not jealous.
At all. No way.
So that's okay. So Owen,
These are
take
two
some notes.
people who are
taking
comfortable in
notes.
their own skins
Mhm.
and are independent, and yet can maintain that connection that is not based on.
If one of you is needy, it won't work.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you have to be together all the
Yeah,
time anyway, it's not going to work.
It's
So
it's
if you're
called-
passionate about your music and spend a lot
Yeah.
of time doing, you got to find someone who thinks that's great. Like my wife thinks the time I spend with my wine is great. You
Yeah.
know?
Mhm.
So that's
Two
key.
people that, here's the word,
Self-esteem.
two people who are autonomous.
Oh, I love that
You
word.
understand?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do understand, and I think it's also important that somebody's very secure, not jealous.
Well, that's implied in the
Right. I mean,
autonomous.
obviously,
Yeah.
and also has their own passion. So they're busy while you're busy.
Mhm.
Right. I'm thinking about myself right now.
No, I agree with that. That's a good
Because
point.
I had a wonderful long marriage and very happily married for probably 25 years. But I would say at the time I was happy with it. We were inseparable. We were not allowed to spend a night
yeah.
apart. We were never a night apart. And, I couldn't even go to see my family in Hungary. Whenever the whole entire family went, I was not allowed to go by myself. And when I say those words out loud, it feels funny.
Yeah.
Because,
So you were not.
but I was happy. I was
I
happy.
don't know. I
You
think
were
it's
happy
weird to
being-
enter a relationship with that level of codependence, though. Like, I would
Right.
go crazy with that. Yeah, no.
Well,
It would
that-
never work.
Well, that's how my relationship was. And, I had a family living in Chicago and Texas and Europe, and I never went to go see anybody. We even had a place on the beach in California, and I wasn't allowed to take my kids and go there by myself. So but I was in love, and I was happy, and it was good then.
Well, if it works for both of you, that's fine.
Right,
Yeah.
but I was used to my parents being that way. My parents were always together, they worked together, they were always together, they were inseparable. And so that's what I saw, and so that's what I did.
Yeah, but
and-
was your father as controlling as your husband was?
Yes,
He was.
Yes,
To what you
yeah.
said. Okay.
but my mom was happy with it.
Okay.
I
She's
feel like
happy with
that style is just kind of outdated. Like, a lot more people in the newer generations are favoring the more independent method because
Yeah.
people are more and more invested in their careers and other passions and side.
Well, and there's a lot of other things that have moved along in those years, like more equitable pay,
Right.
more individual human rights, women being less dependent on men,
Right.
and so
Yeah.
it's not equal yet, but it's a lot better, where the wife, stayed home and washed the socks and made.
And
dinner.
now they actually have some decision making and can do whatever they want.
Right,
It's nice.
right. So, but the good news is I was happy, very happy
That's
for
interesting.
25 years,
Oh,
very
that's
happy.
good.
And therefore, I think my kids are very happy. Both my kids are happy. They are thriving with relationships, and I think it's because they saw a happy relationship. I think it's important for kids to see that.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Right.
Any relationship that the parents model, the kids are affected by, for sure.
Right.
Whether it's whatever. the
Whether it's
dynamic
hating what
is.
they were like, or
Right,
being modeled.
But
on.
now, Kinga, now you are enjoying your independence, are you not?
I love being independent. I love,
Yeah.
I love that I can decide if I want to have it
It's-
hot or cold in the
yeah,
room.
Yeah.
I love.
You would never go back to a relationship that you were totally controlled,
No.
would you?
No, I would not.
Wait, so let's get down to our reviews of this wine. 'cause it's
Oh,
so
we're
delicious.
doing the red. This is a lovely Pinot Noir. I mean, a lovely rosé. What are the grapes in this, Sam?
It's a total Rhone blend. It's Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, and Petit Syrah.
You gotta love it.
And I don't know if we said the title or the name of this wine. It's One Night Stand.
Speaking of love,
That is a perfect date.
So that's perfect to get your date on Valentine's Day if it's
Right.
not serious.
That's
Yeah, I
right.
mean, send a message.
It's not
you know,
serious.
I have the right wine for
Put some
us,
inception
you know.
into the night.
You know, I'm not into commitment, so I got a wine named One Night Stand. I think it's very appropriate.
How did you name this? I love it.
I'll tell you, it's quite interesting. All of the names that we've given to our wines have reasons for existing. And I always make this joke that they say that every time there's a commercial airliner crash, it's never just one reason. It's always three reasons, and it's the same with our wines for their names.
I love that.
It's really funny too, because the number of times women seem to like this name better than men. That's a kind of
I
subjective.
love it.
Yeah.
I love this.
And the number of times a woman will turn to me and say, "Can I have a one night stand, please?"
You love that.
But the real,
You've never brought this one to the show.
Yeah,
I think I have.
Yeah, I think he has.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Has he?
Sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
The story about the name, the original reason was the very first time I brought my first vintage to the market. I had arranged an organization at this high-end wine store in Scottsdale, which I think is still open. And the owner we had 50 people there. It was about equal men and women. And so I was telling the story because it was a 2006 rosé. That's how long ago we started. That was our
It's
first
so
one.
good.
Yeah.
It's
And-
delicious.
And we just called it rosé. We didn't call it One Night Stand rosé. And so I was explaining to this group of people, I said, the reason we've nicknamed this wine One Night Stand is what happened was I bought a whole lot of grapevines from the famous, now deceased Oregon Pinot Noir pioneer Dick Erath, who was a
Yeah.
friend of mine.
Yeah.
And we planted these things and they weren't Pinot Noir. We couldn't figure out what they were. The leaves were wrong, the fruit was wrong. But I had a crew. They'd finished picking one day, and there was a small block, and I just said, pick the rest of it. We'll see what we can do with it. And they picked it, and we crushed it, and they tasted this wine, which I didn't find very interesting. So I told everyone to pull the vines out. And working with a wonderful winemaker, Eric Glomsky, who's a very good friend of mine, Page Bing Cellars, I was making my wine there,
Great guy.
and he made this terrific rosé out of it. So
Out of those grapes.
yeah.
From
We don't know
you
what
don't
they
know
were.
what they were.
They were red, but
Yeah.
well, they weren't even that. They might have been.
They were like Gamay or something.
Anyway, so I was making this joke with these people that we sampled this first. I had three wines: this, Rhone Red, and Diva, which I'm still making to this day. And everyone was enjoying it. And I said, I want to tell you this story. We had to pull the vines out that we made this wine from. So we've nicknamed this wine Rosé One Night Stand. And all the women in this group burst out laughing. And all the men looked kind of nervous and uncomfortable.
Right.
And I don't really know why, but I have a hunch.
Yeah.
And so we've called it One Night Stand Rosé ever since. But it has two other reasons for existing. One of them was that I had I couldn't make it again from those vines. The other one was I heard one of my staff members. Sometimes my staff members tell these stories to people when they're pouring the wine. That I don't know where they got these stories from, but I heard this woman say, we call this One Night Stand because the grapes are only on the skins for one night, which is how you make a rosé. Because
Really?
yeah,
Right.
I mean the
Explain
juice
it. I don't understand
the juice from all grapes is white. Red wine, Pinot Noir is in Champagne.
Of course.
Okay, well that's a red grape.
Right.
So what if you do? If you crush the grapes and get the juice, the way you get the red color from red grapes is the time they spend on the skins, which has got a lot of stuff in it apart from color.
Yeah.
It's got tannins and
Yeah,
some
and
and
that's
flavor.
all. That's the whole fermentation process.
That's in fermentation. So up to 10 days, maybe I've fermented a
Or
red once
longer,
for
yeah.
54 days.
Yeah.
But normally it's about 10 or 12 days. And what you do to make a rosé is you just bleed the French call it saigner, which means bled. You bleed the juice off the skins after 6 hours, or as this staff member said, we call this One Night Stand because it's only on the skins for one night.
I love that.
And that came out of nowhere. Can't tell you the third reason, but anyway.
That was a
Ah. That's what we really
Now-
want to hear. is the
Now,
third reason.
now, what we have, and it's interesting because
Tell us something salacious. Tell us about number 3.
No, I can't.
We won't tell anybody.
Actually, I'll tell you the truth. I've never had a one-night stand.
Really?
No, I like knowing people that I'm
So-
going to be intimate with.
So
That's
we have a
pretty
chance?
amazing, having been in the in the movie industry for so many decades.
You know, people think that, but I'm going to tell you
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
If you're directing a film, you think you've got time
You
to
don't
have,
got time to
have an affair. And also,
Yeah, right.
the worst thing you can do is have an affair with one of your actresses, because then you'll think everything that she does is great, which is not a good idea. So
Right.
no, I've been quite professionally
Yeah.
disciplined about
It's
that.
interesting though.
I noticed
you
cranberry
project-
on the nose of this one.
Sure.
Cranberry,
so
Or red
who can
berries,
read this?
cranberries.
Owen's Eyes, Little Whippersnapper. Can you read this to us out loud? What does it say?
It might be what I just said, actually.
Yeah.
But still, can we read it?
Yeah. Okay. We called this one night stand because our first rosé was made from vines we pulled, so it could never be made from those grapes again. Another story told is the grapes only sit on the skins for one night for whatever reason. The name caught on and curiously, women more than men seem drawn to this. Fermented, bone dry, and slowly aged in stainless steel, this crisp, refreshing wine has hints of strawberry and watermelon.
Strawberry and
Pairs
watermelon.
with just about any food from pan-fried flounder to barbecue, served chilled and sip on a summer afternoon out by the barbecue.
So why barbecue? Because I would pair this with.
Well, here's another interesting thing. Most people don't know this. Traditionally, for a long time in the U.S., what people thought was a rye, they called it a blush, and it was just horrible. And it was a sweet pink wine made from red grapes. And that is not this. This is a classical Provençal French Provençal
Say
style.
this is dry, yeah.
Style rosé.
Yeah, that's the way they've been making rosé in Europe
French
forever.
rosés are always dry. And what's interesting, believe it or not, the French drink 5 times more rosé than any other wine.
Yeah.
It's inexpensive. It's normally made quite low in alcohol, so you can have a glass of wine with lunch and not, have to have a nap.
12%
And it goes with everything. It
It does go with everything.
It'll
That's
go
what I
with
love.
pan-fried snapper because it's delicate, and it'll go with barbecued steak or even curry because it's got a real bite to it.
But I would eat this with a steak. I would
No,
eat
sure.
this
It
with
works.
salmon
It
or
works.
sea bass.
Yep, it
I
works.
hope you would drink it.
Oh, drink it.
Eat it.
There's a word for this.
I'm gonna masticate it. Chew it. It's a chewy wine.
Well, it's quaffable.
And also a couple of other things. It tends not to be a great wine, but because it's inexpensive, it's low in alcohol. It goes with everything. Keep a bottle in your fridge all the time. It'll if visitors come, it'll work. If someone brings takeout in, it'll work with that takeout.
And we're coming up on pool party season. This is a great bottle to take to the pool.
No, I heard an interesting story from one of the judges of the Governor's Cup wine competition, which is all Arizona wines, that's coming out soon. And he said for the first time in the history of this competition, there's a grand prize for the best wine in the whole competition. And he said it was a rosé. Everyone was stunned.
Wow.
Because it tends not to be a great wine. It tends to be a nice wine.
Did you judge that one?
I
Richard
didn't
Betts.
I didn't judge that particular wine in my table.
But you were one
Yeah,
of the
Oh,
I
judges.
feel like rosé is a lot of.
But I
the time.
tasted it because the way it works is you have like 6 tables of 4 people, something like that, and each table gets a different sheet of wines to taste, and then they pick their favorites, the 2 favorites, and then after lunch you get together and we taste all those favorites, and then we pick the winners, the best in class, best in show from those 12 wines.
Well, this would be my favorite.
Yeah.
This-
I knew there was one rosé in that group, which I tasted, and I know that as hands were raised for best in show, there were a number of hands.
Well, maybe it was best in show. Maybe it wasn't the grand prize.
Well, best in show is the grand.
Oh, okay,
prize.
then that's what.
There was a number of hands that went up for that rosé, as I recall. I don't know what rosé it is, but I do remember that. Yeah.
These were blind tastings.
Then there was
Everyone
one
knows
You
year,
don't know
and
who made
there was
them.
one, and there was one hand that went up this year for a dessert wine, which I thought was cool because one time when I did that, One time I was judging, and I was the only person to raise my hand for best in show was a dessert wine, which turned out to be Sam's wine.
We got great prizes for that, and that was another one of those stories. That
What was that one called?
Sweet Lies.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Which
Which
Sweet
I would have brought
Lies.
today, except that you can't. Like, you can buy this wine in a lot of places, including all Total Wine stores.
Can we get Chet to follow that Sweet Lies?
The Sweet Lies you can get, but you have to get it from us directly. And we don't put it in any store.
So you sell it at the wine.
You can buy it at our tasting rooms, or you can order it. Yeah, but if you order it, it's expensive, and it's in little 750 ml bottles.
Or I have your address.
Well,
I'll just go to your house.
you probably remember this, but I prefer dry more to sweet.
Well, it depends on what they're for. I mean, my food wines are all bone dry. Sugar stops you from tasting. That's why sugar and salt and all the bad foods.
None of his wines are sweet.
But
None of them are sweet.
I thought the one we're just talking
We're
about
doing
is
a
sweet.
dessert wine, but that's for having with cheese or
Yeah,
dessert. It's it's not for having with steak, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
And that's another one. A lot of our discoveries have been accidents, and that was a wine that was started as an accident because we had a what didn't appear to be a very good symphony, which is a created by UC Davis, which we grew quite a lot of. And so we just left it in some barrels and walked away from it. We came back later, and there wasn't enough yeast to ferment it dry, and it was basically what we call a late harvest. And so that
So
we
kind
did
of slightly sweet then?
slightly
So it has
sweet.
some residual
Yeah.
sugar because all the sugar was not converted to alcohol.
Yeah,
I don't think we've tried that one on the show.
I can't
No.
remember, but it's absolutely divine, and
Wonderful.
that got the grand prize for the dessert wines. We have this amazing award for that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll bring
and he
cheese.
recommended it for the very best of show. Yeah.
Next month, maybe we can do
Because I understand dessert wine.
taste that one. Let's do one on dessert wines, and I'll bring some dessert.
Yeah, and to this day, we sometimes make what we call a late harvest. A late harvest is a wine that you grow it and you leave it on the vine so long that the fruit is so sweet
Right.
that the yeast hasn't got enough
always
energy to
gonna
convert it all
wind
to
up
alcohol.
with-
So what it
yeah.
is, it's sweet, but it's not sucrose, it's fructose. So
Yeah.
it's a better kind of sugar for your health, and it's more,
More
natural.
natural, yeah.
Which is what I.
Some
care
of the
about.
most incredible wines, white wines in the world, the Rieslings from Germany, for instance, you know, you get up into, they have different levels of harvest, and they get up into Baron Auslese, Trocken Baron Auslese.
Oh, you can
right?
pronounce that.
And these have incredible residual sugar, but also incredible acidity and structure.
So it lasts. It can
Oh my
last.
God.
It lasts for
And they're
100 years.
amazing.
You know.
So it's
when you have
balanced?
that sweetness
Mm-hmm.
balanced by the tension of acidity, that's a winning combination.
And there are Rieslings out there that are 100 years old.
Oh yeah,
And there's Rieslings out
Yeah.
there that are 200 years old. And I would tell
Wow.
you,
yeah.
Wow.
the most amazing wine I ever tasted in my life was a Riesling. I think it was only about 25 years old, go figure. But I sipped this wine,
Oh yeah.
and I got down on my hands and knees,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I put my forehead on the ground.
Yes.
It was a wonderful experience to see how amazing something
Yeah.
could actually be,
Yeah.
you know?
And
It's
that's
very humbling.
Yeah, yeah.
This
Incredible.
rosé is one of my favorite rosés I've ever had. It's
Actually,
amazing.
this is my
Is
favorite
this one of the
rosé
ones
I've
that
ever had,
people can
ever.
find at Total Wine?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
this is-
cool.
This is
We
widely
whacked
available.
it out there, you know?
Okay, so what does
I'm
this
gonna take a
cost if
little
somebody's
bit
gonna purchase
Oh,
this at
for
Total Wine?
you.
It's at Total Wines, it's $25.
Only $25. It's so delicious.
Well,
Like I would have expected.
Get a
like
bottle of
50.
One Night Stand for your one night stand this Valentine's Day.
You know, I'm gonna challenge Chet and Owen. Their next
To find one night
date.
stand.
See if
This
it's
is the
actually,
one night stand challenge, folks.
see if it gets you a one-night stand.
I challenge you guys the next time you guys go on a first date to bring this wine with you. To have some humor. That's funny.
Yuma.
That's funny. I
Nothing.
mean, right?
It's not really a challenge. It's more like a
It's just funny.
it's like helping.
It's
a fellow.
Inception.
Yeah.
You know what they say?
Yeah.
If you make a woman laugh,
That's right. If you make them laugh,
leave them laughing.
their pants go down to their calf.
Leave them laughing the next morning.
No.
No,
No, that's
I have
not
another
it.
saying, but I won't say it.
I don't know if this is interesting to anyone, but another discovery I made because I started out doing this not knowing what the hell I was doing, and so I don't know what a lot of the traditional things are, and it's cost me in some ways because I've made mistakes that were expensive, but I've also made mistakes that were quite wonderful discoveries. And when I was making my wine, what they call custom crush contract at another winery, a lot of the people that work there would bleed which is the French word saigner. They would bleed the juice off at the start to make the wine richer in color.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
I don't give a damn what color the wine is. I care about what it tastes like. But what we started doing is we started bleeding that juice off and fermenting it separately in barrel. And it turned out to be, in some ways, some of the most exquisite tasting wine I've ever tasted. So what people are doing is they're dumping the best juice on the planet to get the wine to look darker red, which is just really stupid, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I do have to say I love the color of this wine.
Well, this is a Provençal style. Actually, this is a bit rich and red for
Yeah.
Provençal
Yeah.
style rosé.
Yeah.
Normally, we're lighter in color. We experimented. We actually made a late harvest.
I love this coloration though. It's so rich.
It's natural. I'll tell you what happened. We specifically made a big tank of a late harvest of Syrah. Sorry, a Syrah, and no, it's Petit Syrah, which is more intense than Syrah because it's half Syrah and half a grape called Palorsan. And
Did you hear that? Petit Syrah and Palorsan?
It's Syrah and Palorsan.
Okay.
Were hybridized or bred together to make a new grape called Petit Syrah. A lot of people think it's called Petit Syrah because the grapes are small, which they are, but actually the real reason is petit in French
call
means
it
chardonnay.
Durif.
Durif is the name
Durif
of the guy who invented it. Yeah,
in France.
the French call it Durif.
Yeah.
So
Impressive.
anyway, that the story was we left all this. We have this we have a wild yeast culture because you know my story. I want everything the wine to be about as natural as possible, and we've done blind tastings against wild yeast ferments and cultured yeast ferments. You buy yeast from a lab in California and you put that in the juice, or you let it go with the natural yeast that comes in on the grapes. And we've done blind tastings over 2 or 3 years, and without fail in the blind tastings, the wines that were fermented with wild yeast tasted more interesting than the cultured yeast wines.
Absolutely.
More complexity.
Absolutely.
And what I love about it is they're specific to your place, so they belong to, you know, because I want to make a wine that comes from a place and was made by a person, not comes from everywhere and was made by a machine. So anyway, we found our wild yeast ferments, our wild yeast so powerful that we don't have any problem with getting them to ferment the wines dry. So we picked this fruit so ripe, like 31 bricks.
Really?
So much sugar that normally, and in our past history, the sugar would stop fermenting when it was still slightly sweet because it just couldn't ferment. It couldn't ferment all that sugar. And this particular blend that we made this from, the wild yeast fermented it bone dry.
Wow.
So we were
That's some
going
tough
to make
yeast.
a late harvest wine with that particular Petit Syrah, but we actually put it in the rosé, and it's the first time we've ever used Petit Syrah in the rosé. Actually, we usually make it from Grenache and Mourvedre.
But still, it's under 13%.
Yeah.
12.8.
No, because that was.
Is there another bottle we're going to be trying today? Or is
This
the
goes to
one?
Gabe.
Well, I brought this as my best suggestion for how
This is
for
the Valentine
Day,
wine.
and I didn't. I could have brought the Sweet Lies, but if you can't get it anywhere, that seems unfair.
Yeah,
so,
it does.
So
We're teasing people.
Exactly. So this is and listen, you know, I don't make wine just because I like wine or I want to be a big shot or something. I make it because I love making something that makes people happy, and by happy I don't mean drunk, I mean happy. And
This makes me happy when I sip it. I love it.
Well, and you know, when we pour, my staff loves working in our tasting rooms because we pour wine for people and you watch their faces light up. It makes you feel good. And I don't think there's any conflict. You know, the whole idea.
Cheers. We're here to celebrate life.
Okay.
Celebrating life with
Wine
Sam
is a
Pillsbury.
celebration of life.
And I'm not.
Absolutely.
I didn't mean to stop your sentence, but I want to have a cheers to hear this.
No.
Here we go.
Ding, ding, ding.
But it's true. You're celebrating. That's the difference. Like, what I love is because of you, Sam. I see Chet drinking Pillsbury wine. I see Chet sipping wine with his dates. I see
Trying to get a one night stand.
right. That's correct. And he used to drink tequila, and he's not a drinker. He doesn't drink a lot, but now I see him being more sophisticated in drinking wine.
Well,
Sophisticated.
Yes.
yeah, I know, but
Hey, I still think tequila's sophisticated.
Oh, me too.
so-
Hey, let me talk on this.
Some of it.
You see-
Oh, I know about you getting totally drunk off of tequila and getting cactus.
That's why you can't drink with her. She will rat you
I'm
out.
not saying
all
who,
kinds of
what,
things
where,
that
when, or
happen.
why, but I will tell you that I know Sam.
What
can
or
drink.
why? All the above.
You just said all of those.
I got completely shit-faced and walked into a barrel cactus in the middle of the day,
Damn.
and I was in pain for
With his
months.
neighbor. I'm not going to say the neighbor's name, but he ended up in the hospital because he was so drunk and
No, I didn't end up in the hospital.
Oh, I thought you
somebody,
did.
No, somebody else did. Yeah. No, I was just in pain for like 2 weeks. But I want to say something else too about great wine. I think there's a tendency. It happens in the art world too. For people who are really very dedicated to, and for lack of a better, we'll call them experts in wine, to become elitist and very sort of snobby about it.
Yeah.
And I have
so kind of closed-minded.
well, I mean, I don't think a great wine has to be about elitism. You can make a great wine, but it can still be a fun experience. They're not in conflict with each other. You don't have to make everybody else feel bad because they don't know as much about wine as you do. You know.
Well, and that's one thing I like about those blind taste tests is that it takes some of those rules away. Like how you're saying that rosé won best in show in that tasting. That probably wouldn't have happened if it wasn't a blind test because people have the premonition that rosé is not very evolved or whatever. But it's a delicious wine. Like it should be able to win a competition sometime.
Yeah, I need to fill my. I drink a very little amount, but I'm gonna have a tiny bit more.
Okay, good.
Um,
Drink it.
so
It's quaffable.
But there's nothing wrong. It can still be a really good wine, but be quaffable, and it can't be. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to cost $1,000 a bottle to be a great wine. There's. I mean, I've actually heard people on television like there's this really rich guy who's actually on TV said, I'm going home today, I'm going to drink $1,000 bottle of wine. Well, if his rationale for how good a wine is and how much it costs,
Well,
and he's got his head up his ass because he's
That's
making it
not
about
uncommon.
No, of course, and he's making it about elitism and money instead of
the
just
nouveau riche.
yeah. People who really care about wine don't do that. That's rich people who are trying to show off, you know. So listen, have fun with it. It can be a great wine or it can be an okay wine. Okay wines are fine. Listen, every night for dinner you don't want to have a Chateau Lafite Rothschild because it will completely
it gets so boring.
dominate the conversation and everything you're eating. Sometimes you just like I've said it before in this show I think, but one of my favorite Italian restaurants in the world is a place called Bruno's by Santa Monica Pier, and it's not expensive at all. It's never booked out. It's been there for Bruno's. It's Bruno. Bruno's. Same staff for 25
I think
years.
it's the first time you've recommended it because I want to go there.
Okay.
It sounds really good.
It's that kind of old-fashioned, slightly greasy style Italian food, which has its place.
Yeah.
And when I go there, I love that place. And when I go there, I go there maybe once a year. The same staff are there every time I go. And I order the same food, and I have a House Chianti, which is the cheapest wine on the menu, and it's perfect.
Right?
Perfect with that
For
food.
that,
you know?
yes. Exactly.
And sometimes those classic hole-in-the-wall Italian spots that have been there for 20 years are the best ones.
They're quite often family. They come from a family tradition of food making, and that grandma did their grandma's pasta. You know that I love Bruno's. It'll disappear.
Okay, wait, where is it again?
Santa Monica Pier, literally
Monica
next
Pier.
door to the entrance to the Santa Monica Pier.
Okay, so we have to go there soon.
It's on the left of the pier if you're facing the ocean.
So I feel this wine is perfect for Valentine's Day for anybody to bring for their date, but also you can take your mom or your sister or your brother. A glass.
There's no way
bottle of
that
this
anybody
wine.
is going to not like a good rosé. There's
I
just
agree.
no way.
I agree.
Oh, I like whites. Oh, I like reds. Well, it's both. You know.
Well, I've been drinking a lot of rosés. The new rooftop restaurant called Thea, Owen works there, and they have one of the largest rosé lists, like in the whole United States. That they're stating that that's what they're famous for.
Yeah.
And I've tasted several rosés there, and they need to taste this because this is amazing. This should be there.
Okay, well, they're good there.
Yeah, we got this is incredible, and it's funny, and it's kind of like it's kind of clubby in there.
Yeah.
And
It'll match the vibe.
It
It's like
totally matches the
Mediterranean type style. So.
Perfect.
I basically cook Mediterranean. That's what Well, Rhone grapes, Rhone wine is Mediterranean.
Yeah, exactly.
It goes with Mediterranean food.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, so we're talking about love and wine, and we're talking about the importance of, impressing your date for Valentine's, but also, what about yourself? Self-love. People don't need to have a date or an excuse to buy somebody else wine. You can buy yourself wine for yourself, your own collection.
Of course.
Absolutely.
And you can make a meal for yourself too if you want to.
Absolutely.
I do that all the time because I work down at the vineyard on my own quite a lot of the time, and I have a pretty good kitchen down there, and I like to cook. It's great, and having it. So sometimes I'll put a picture of what I've done for dinner. I'll say, "You cook that just for yourself?" So, yeah, I want to eat good food,
So what are one of the other bottles that people can find at Total Wine if somebody's listening and they're more of a fan of red?
That's a great question.
One of the bottles that they could find at Total Wine, and then what is the food pairing that would go with that one too?
Well, it depends on the style of the red. We have a Wild Child White and the Wild Child Red at Total Wines, and they're both good with food. There's no new oak in any of my wines. There's no residual sugar, so they'll go well with food.
And that's also a funny Wild Child. It's kind of a cool, if somebody gives you that wine on Valentine's Day. I can't remember what the occasion was, but I had a party, and your neighbor brought Wild Child and Diva, and I was like, he said, "This makes me think of Wild Child and Diva." So the name of the wine to me is important.
Well, I like
especially for Valentine's.
I like it to have meaning. I mean, the Wild Childs, for example, they're the only wines that we make that aren't based on a classical profile. So most of the wines we make are took some French or mostly French, but sometimes a German wine as a model, and then started playing around with it. But the Wild Childs have tended to be me playing around with a bunch of stuff to see what I can get out of it that I like. Actually, a Wild Child White started out being based on a dry Gewürztraminer, but it's kind of gone off on its own little more fragrant wine direction than my favorite dry Gewürzes. But once again, 3 reasons for the name. The first one I made in 89.
89. That's the year I was married. That's
yeah.
a good year. Great year.
Was because I had only recently planted my vineyard and a lot of my vines weren't producing fruit. There was an abandoned vineyard across the road from me, so I picked all the grapes from that vineyard. So one of the reasons we called it Wild Child was because it came from this wild vineyard. The second reason was I wanted to be able to have the freedom to not be constrained by classical profiles, but to just sort of play around with my own thing. So I had this kind of wild ambition with
I love
it.
That.
And then
unique.
And the third thing was we just had a little boy, my wife and I. So and then what's quite funny is that.
So I hear he's like 6
taller
foot.
than me, yeah. He's 5'11" right now. The
5'11". Wow.
When I was, you have to apply to the federal government for your labels because they have a lot of rules about what you can put on your labels.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it used to take them.
Really?
It used to take them 90 days to give you a response. So they put it through a computer now, and it's much faster. And I thought they're never going to let me put a. Where's my bottle? They're never going to let me.
One night stand?
No. They're never going to let me put a wine with the word child on it. The computer will just reject it because it's wine,
Oh,
So
I didn't know where you were going.
I invented a new word, which is Wild Child is one word,
Yep.
capital W, capital C, but it's one word, so it doesn't exist in the system because I invented that word, so it got through the system, and I've been making it for years.
Okay, now that's interesting. Every time I look at the wine bottle, I thought it said Wild Child, but it's one word. I forgot.
Wild Child.
Okay, well,
And
interesting.
it's not only one word, but it has a capital W and a capital C in the one word. So
I love it.
That's a non-existent English word.
And that shows how smart you are. You were absolutely brilliant. Who would have thought of that? To put it together and create it as one word.
I was
Very smart.
I was amazed that it passed, but the computer couldn't process it.
Yeah.
So that was pretty funny. So that's
I love it.
That's our label now. Yeah.
So, having the funny names and having the most delicious wine, you have it all. What do you see yourself doing in the next few years?
Probably retiring.
I mean, you have like incredible wines. I mean, Richard is a wine snob over here. He judges wines all the
I'm not
time.
a wine snob. I'm the furthest thing from a wine
Well, I mean,
snob.
not a wine snob.
man.
I mean,
He likes quality wine.
Yes, you
so
like
he's
quality
the opposite.
wines.
He's not foo-foo like, oh, the
Yeah.
bottle's not
you're not about the
$1,000.
expensive of it. It's about
just
you like
plebeian
fine wine, and
juice.
that's why Pillsbury is one of your favorite wines.
I love wine.
He's
Wine's a
one of your
passion,
biggest fans.
you know?
He's always bragging about your.
Wino.
And I'm one of your biggest fans.
Oh, that's so sweet. Well, listen,
It's true.
they're honest wines. I mean, there's no tricks in them. They're just made very naturally and very honestly.
Yeah.
And
They're not-
Almost organic.
There's a big difference between wine that was
Mhm.
made, 100 years or for hundreds of years that were natural wines. They are a reflection of the place that the grapes were grown. They reflect that. They express that. And most of the wines we drink, though, these days in this country anyway, are manufactured wines.
with the grapes coming from
Big difference.
everywhere.
Even they do not express the terroir. They do
Mhm.
not express where the grapes are grown.
And they don't
They're made
express.
to taste a certain way because technology gives them the freedom to make wine taste any way they want.
Well, okay, the way I'm reading that from you
and there's
is
so many things that they can add to wine.
so there's no
additives.
additives, there's nothing fake in it. It's all organic. But what I'm really hearing from you is like 1 year is going to be completely different than the next year's,
Yeah,
which is good. That's what
Well,
you want
not,
it to be.
not
Not
completely,
completely.
but I wanted to
but
reflect
it's going to be different.
the year that it grew
That's right.
and where it came from.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think that's
And
valuable.
now, I'm not saying that wines that have additives and are made, that these are bad wines. They're just different. This is what many people drink, and they like it. I'm not condemning them for that.
No, but what I'm saying is I prefer that it's not
wines-
always the same. How boring to have
I prefer wines that are
These wines have
expressing
character.
an expression of the
character.
vineyard.
That's a good word.
It's quite deliberate. When I first started releasing
Mm-hmm.
my wines, I sold a whole lot of my first vintage to this resort up in North Scottsdale, I guess. And after the second year, they stopped buying my wines, and I actually went there and I said, "Why did you stop buying my wines?" And they said, "Oh, our customers said it changes too much from year to year," which is exactly
that's the ignorance.
Exactly.
That's the opposite of what you want.
Yeah.
Yes,
Now,
it's boring to have it
I mean,
exactly the same every time.
I often cite that I work a little bit like they do in a French village. Where you go to this little French village and there's an inn by the river, and you go in the inn and you get the menu and it has the fish that they caught from the river, and the salad is all grown in their garden next to the house, and the wine grapes and the wine is made by a guy across the road. And I'm kind of like that as a metaphor for what we do. I also don't want to make perfect wines, which if you use a lot of technology and a lot of stuff from labs, you can do that. It's risky because I always laugh with my staff because I often say to them, you don't know where the line is until you cross it. And we've crossed the line a couple of times and had spoiled wines. But I didn't want to make perfect wines. I wanted to make wines that had character.
Mm-hmm.
And I always often say, a beautiful woman hasn't necessarily got a perfect face. She has an interesting face, and
Here, here.
yeah.
That's so true. When
That's so
somebody is
true.
like too symmetrical looking, it almost throws you off. So
I actually made friends at your mom's place one day with a woman who was actually from Ukrainian woman. She knows your mom. She works with your
My mom
Yeah.
and my sister.
I'm sorry, your sister. I beg
Thank
your
you.
pardon. Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Barb. You mean Barb?
Yeah, I
Gabe,
mean Barb.
Gabe,
Yeah,
cheers.
yeah.
No, I know who you're talking about.
Cheers,
and,
cheers, cheers.
And anyway, I found the way she was quite interesting. She came from this, really interesting place, and I thought that was interesting. But I found,
Was it a friend of hers or was it one of the ballerinas?
No, it was a friend of hers.
I know you.
Yeah,
I know
Which
who
would be
you're
a
talking
friend,
about.
I guess.
And anyway, but what's interesting is she looked so perfect. I found it not very interesting, And I showed a picture to
He
one of
keeps
my,
looking at me like I don't look perfect.
Yeah, I love it. But I showed this picture to a friend.
Like she doesn't look
No.
perfect.
I mean, I don't know if this is true or not. And she was a very nice lady. I have no issue with it at all. But I showed this picture of her to a friend of mine, and she said, "Oh, she's had a lot of work done." So
Do you like that? Do you
I
like your?
hate it.
So like if somebody has like big puffed up lips
I don't think she
and
has.
No, I have no way of knowing. This one person said, "Oh my God," she just looked at it for like 4 seconds and said,
so the Barbie looking ones where this is done and this is done and that is done is not your style.
I'll tell you a story. I was flying to New Zealand one day, and I went through customs, and I stood in front of those little they have a little camera now to ID you, and I stood in front of this camera for 2.5 seconds, and it went, "Welcome, Mr. Pillsbury, your plane is waiting for you." And I thought, out of billions of people who live on this planet, that computer picked me out from everybody else because I don't look like anybody else. And I think that's precious. Why would you change your nose?
Right.
Like, your face looks like it does because of where your genes are from and how you've lived and how you've smiled a lot or frowned a lot. And I just think we should treasure that. And I feel the same way about wine. I had no problem with this woman.
You circled that in perfectly.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that's a great way a great analogy and a great way to just explain your wine, because there's nothing fake about your wine.
No, there isn't. That's for sure.
It's real.
Sometimes
It's real.
The
and
number
it's
one thing that's getting absurd with the plastic surgery are the lip injections. You see these people where it looks like their lips are about to literally pop off of their face.
It's so stupid.
Yeah.
It's so stupid how you could do that to yourself. And
It's
think
fun.
sexy.
It's silly looking. It's silly looking. Like, it looks like they get stung by a swarm of bees.
Do I have time to play a love song? A love
Yes,
story?
please. Yes.
I'm gonna play a love
Yes. I
story.
would love that.
Okay.
Well, you're here saving the planet one show at a time. Drink local wines. If you live here in Arizona, drink Pillsbury wines.
This is a love story.
Delicious.
Can you hear? How's
Saving
this
the
sound?
planet.
One show at a time.
But we still have 3 minutes, so let's go.
Okay. It's a love story about somebody who moves to a city, doesn't really like it that much, but falls in love. And
Oh, I love that.
well, I don't much like Phoenix. It's too hot in the summertime. Too many right-wing, hateful people. This town don't feel like mine.
I love
Well, I would
Phoenix.
drop this load and hit the road. Yeah, that's what I would do. I would not stay in Phoenix if it weren't for you. If it weren't for you. Your love keeps me here. Your love holds me here. I would not stay in Phoenix. No, I wouldn't be in Phoenix. I would not stay in Phoenix if it weren't for you. Well, I don't much like Phoenix. Jobs don't pay good here. Well, you can work, you can run in this hot, hot sun, but you still don't get nowhere. Well, I would drop clip today and fly away. Well, that's what I would do. I would not stay in Phoenix if it weren't for you. If it weren't for you. Your love keeps me here. Your love holds me here. I would not stay in Phoenix. No, I wouldn't be in Phoenix. I would not stay in Phoenix if it weren't for you.
I love it. Woo! Can I say what? I love that song so much because I want to just clip that and play that so nobody else comes to Phoenix.
Well, this is
There's too many people
interesting.
coming
This was
here.
written by a friend of mine,
Okay.
Dennis Stout, maybe 20 years ago. And
Okay.
this was his story. He came here to Phoenix from Hawaii, where he'd been living.
Oh.
Because his mother was sick to take care of. Then he meets a woman, and next thing you know, he's
It would be
here.
rough to do
This is a
Phoenix
common
summer.
story. This is why this is about love. This is the power of
That's
love.
interesting.
I love
Bring
that.
it back to Valentine's Day because
Yes.
that's why I'm here. I grew up in New
Exactly.
Zealand. I like to be by the ocean.
Yeah.
Where the hell do I spend my time?
Right.
In the middle of the friggin' desert.
Right. So
For love.
So
To
Dennis,
love.
Dennis wrote the words to this and gave it to me to put it to music, and that's the
job.
result.
Yeah, that's
That was a good song.
that's a great song. It's a great song because I love Phoenix.
People relate to
We have-
this
but let's-
experience, and this is again, you fall in love with someone, and your whole life can change in ways that you did not anticipate.
true.
Some people get
It's
stuck
true.
in Reno.
Yes.
That's
Stuck in
how.
Rio,
Or
yeah.
Yuma.
Oh,
So
nobody's getting stuck in Yuma for love. That's they should
So
break
moral of the
up.
story is
Like, we're
only,
done.
if
We're
you're
done.
single, moral of the story is if you're single, only go to beautiful spots to fall in love.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, go to
Saving the
Save the planet one
One
show
show
at
at
a
a
time.
time.
Sam Pillsbury, drink Sam